Rahim. Welcome back. Previously we went through lecture number 6. Now it's time to go through lecture number 7, but before we begin with lecture 7 and its contents, let's go through some of the stuff that we covered in the last lecture. Previous lecture, the cultural perspective of public policy and a few examples, the ethical perspective. These were the remaining two non-cultural, non-common or non-traditional, I should say, views of public policy. These relate to culture and ethics. Now, both of these are normally unheard of. What you would find over here, in at least in Pakistan's decision-making circles, is that these kind of considerations are not given much importance, much weight. Culture, ethics. I guess when a society doesn't have any ethics, when the decision makers themselves are devoid of ethics as far as public policy is concerned, and put their perspective first, put themselves first, their self-interest in the front before the public, then obviously ethics and culture don't figure that much. What figures more is the financial side, which is the more lucrative side, I should say. In the end, we went through Amartya Sen's article on Smithian ethics and their role in laissez-faire economy. I really do hope that you all have went through the article. It's a wonderful article by a Nobel Prize-winning economist. And it brings out something that even in the field of economics is pretty negated, which is the ethical basis of a laissez-faire economy or a purely capitalist economy, and economic history. Both of these are not very, let's say, attractive even in the field of economics. So what the article did was that it kind of brought into perspective those things, a bit of history, a bit of ethics, a bit of background, and the basis of running a capitalist economy or laissez-faire economy. I found it very interesting. Decision makers or policy makers or even policy analyzers should find it very interesting too. And as I said, later on we'll be going through a few examples that might touch upon this subject. So let's start with lecture number 7. Public policy's effect on citizen. Now this I bought from your book. Not exactly bought, I shouldn't say bought, but I took this from your course book, although I didn't intend to go through it, but there is quite a lot of stuff on it in the course book and the textbook, and in fact when I went through it, it sounded interesting. It kind of relates to what we have already studied, and it relates to it in a broader perspective. So it's worthwhile to go through this stuff, and hopefully by the end of this lecture we have pretty much completed the theoretical portion of the policy analysis. So now we are gradually transforming ourselves towards the more practical part of the public policy analysis, and by the end of this lecture, you will find that we would be going into the attributes of a good policy making, which kind of goes to the practical side of policy making decision. And then later on we'd start with the quality from next lecture onwards, hopefully we'd start with the quantitative process and the qualitative processes like cost benefit analysis and stuff like that, in order to go to the practical side of things. So public policy's effects on citizens. First of all, as citizens of a country, we are entitled to certain rights under the Constitution. Same is the case almost everywhere. citizens expect the delivery of certain services according to that right. In other words, government's right to come up and implement a specific public policy is by default. अच्छा, as citizens of a country, देखें एक मुल्क का मैं बाशिंदा हूँ जिसका एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है. People don't read it. I never read it until a few years ago. There was an obligation. There was a certain problem which made me go through the Constitution. In fact, certain clauses of the Constitution, and I recognize that as the citizen of my country, I have a few basic rights that are upheld by courts. But I realize that we should all go through this stuff. We should know our rights. One of the things that is a critical part, I should say, in the way that we are mistreated or we are exploited as people, as masses, is that we have no idea about our rights, what our rights are as citizens of a country. So if you get the chance, go through the Constitution and what it says, and it's a very interesting document. It lays out in detail what our rights are, what the fundamental rights are. Unless we are aware of it, we'll keep getting exploited, and there are quite a few people to exploit that. Those who have mastered those tenets of the Constitution and are very good at it, they can easily befool people, and quite a few of them. There are quite a few of them in Pakistan. As citizens of a country, we are entitled to certain rights under the Constitution. Remember that. Same is the case almost everywhere. Citizens expect the delivery of certain services according to that right. Now, as citizens of a country, and that happens almost everywhere, you would find in constitutions there are certain clauses that deal with the provision of certain basic facilities to the people. That happens everywhere, and that is the same with in Pakistan. With the Constitution of Pakistan, it guarantees certain rights, and on part of government, it creates certain obligations for providing basic facilities to the people of Pakistan. Basic facilities like health, like education, clean water, sanitation. These are enshrined in the Constitution, and you, as citizens of Pakistan, we have a right to it. So, in other words, government right to come up and implement a specific public policy is by default. Now, when I say it is by default, is that we as citizens of our country are demanding the provision of certain rights. So, government has to come up with a policy by default, even if it doesn't want to. It has to come up with a certain policy, which is its constitutional obligation to come up with a public policy for the betterment of people, for the provision of those basic facilities that would help improve the life of the citizens of a country. We also discussed during the previous lectures that there are certain side effects or asides of public policy that are not that visible when a policy is proposed or implemented. The participation of citizens in a country's affairs is one such effect. Now, पिछले लेक्चर्स में हमने बात की थी कि अक्सर ऐसा होता है कि पॉलिसी मेकर्स जब कोई पॉलिसी इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं या पॉलिसी लागू करते हैं तो उसके कुछ ऐसे साइड इफेक्ट्स होते हैं, उसके कुछ ऐसे असरात होते हैं जो कि जिनको मद्देनजर नहीं रखा जाता. ये फिर वक्त के साथ साथ जब एक पॉलिसी इम्प्लीमेंट की जाती है तो फिर ये असरात सामने आते हैं. अब इनमें एक जो असर है, द पार्टिसिपेशन ऑफ सिटीजन इन अ कंट्रीज अफेयर्स इज वन सच इफेक्ट. नाउ दिस इज रेयरली कंसिडर्ड by policy makers, and who cares, honestly, who cares what I feel or you feel? What would, if a specific policy, if a road is made, let's say, if a road is made in a specific locality, if a road is made inside a city, a big road, a huge road is made, what would it do to the participation of my participation, your participation as citizens of a country in public affairs? Would we like to have our say? Would we like to just abstain from it and don't say anything, that is participation. But policymakers at least over here are rarely concerned with it. It doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't make sense to them that why should we care if somebody participates or not? Because one of the reasons that they don't care, from what I've seen from my experience, is that they don't think that it's worthwhile to ask them, to ask people to participate, to ask citizens to participate in the policy making process, because they think of themselves as too smart, too intelligent, and they don't need any advice from anybody or any views upon public policy making from anybody, which is a shame, which is ridiculous, because as citizens of our country and having rights enshrined in the Constitution, we have every right to have a say in the policy making that the government can come up with. And another reason is that quite a few of us, not all of us, but those of us who pay taxes to the government from our income, also expect that money that we give to the government to be used for the welfare of the people, not for other purposes or for non-development purposes. Now, over here, I would ask you to take some time out and search a bit about Pakistan's budget. Now, if you search about Pakistan budgets and search it by the category of non-development and development expenditures. Development expenditures are specifically meant for development and welfare scheme. Non-development expenditures, they are just day-to-day expenditures which are not aimed at development. They are just aimed at running the affairs of a government, most of which are a waste of resources, to be honest with you. Now, when you go through the budget documents, in fact, when you search the percentages of development and non-development expenditures, what you'd find is that a huge portion of expenditures that the government entails, or the governance entails at various tiers, the federal, the provincial, the local, and which most of it comes from our money, the taxpayer money, it's just wasted. It's wasted on non-development resources or non-development activities, meaning that there is no outcome from it. It's just a waste of resources. And that general statement about non-development expenditures being the largest part of the budget are true for even if you bifurcate it by ministry, by divisions, or by function. Suppose, for example, I give you the example of education sector. Now, in government's education sector, what I found out during one of my research was that more than 70% of the total expenditures on education, they go to non-development purposes, like salaries of the staff, buildings, maintenance of buildings, provision of vehicles, and that sort of stuff. But no development expenditure. Rarely any development expenditure. No, sorry, I shouldn't say rarely, but only around 25% to 20% goes to development expenditure, and that includes building of new schools, making capacity for new children to go to schools, improving their lot, improving the textbooks, and that sort of stuff that goes towards developing the education potential of children. This is not just true for education sector, as I said, that this is true for all the sectors in which the government operates. So this is unfortunate, but this is the reality. So the participation of citizens in a country's affairs is one such effect. When policy makers are designing a policy, to briefly state what I mean is that when policymakers are designing a policy, they should keep in mind what the policy will do to the participation of the citizen in the affairs of the country. They don't realize it. Not many people realize it, but it's very important. It's an important aspect of public policy making. Take the example of voter turnout rates all over Pakistan. Although elections are held all over Pakistan, yet the participation rates are always different. For a description of this fact, follow this what I've just written over here, this URL. It's an interactive map through which one can see the participation rates of in the different districts of Pakistan in 2013 elections. मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप लोग ये जो मैंने आपको लिंक दिया हुआ है URL है, इसको फॉलो करें. क्लिक ऑन इट, गो टू इट. ये एक इंटरेक्टिव मैप है. इस पे व्हाट यू कैन डू इज मूव द कर्सर अराउंड. इसमें पाकिस्तान के सारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं जो कि 2013 के इलेक्शन में जहाँ पे वोट पोल हुए, या कुछ ऐसे शायद डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं, एक मैं देख रहा जहाँ पे कोई हुआ भी नहीं है बलूचिस्तान में, तो उसमें आपको वोटर टर्नआउट नजर आएगा. वोटर टर्नआउट जो है, दिस इज अ प्रॉक्सी फॉर पार्टिसिपेशन. वोटर टर्नआउट टेल्स यू अबाउट पार्टिसिपेशन rates all over the country. Now let me confess something to you. What I'll confess is that I voted for the first time in my entire life in 2013 general elections. One of the reasons being is that I never imagined that my participation would be important. So disillusioned was I, and as are most of the educated lot, with the people who have governed this country and what they've made this country into, that I never thought it would be worthwhile voting or participating. But to be very honest with you, I would say that I was wrong. We should participate, and we should participate because it's in our advantage. It's to our advantage to make our lot better, to try to make our lot better. And the one of the way to go about this thing is to participate in public policy making, so that those who make the policy know that somebody is asking questions. You, I, we are asking questions. That is how they would realize that we need their input too. Otherwise, as I said, they just keep making policy by themselves without even asking anybody, because they think they are just too smart and they don't need anybody's advice. So when you go through this link, this is kind of a participation. This is a proxy for participation. ये आपको बताता है कि कितना इंटरेस्ट है और किन किन इलाकों में है लोगों का अपने रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स में और एक पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम में. As you can see, the participation rates in districts of 3 provinces, Punjab, KPK and Sindh, much higher than that of Balochistan. That is one of the side effects of the security policies and the resulting security situation which has seen such low voter turnout. अगर आप अपने कर्सर को डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स पे, आप 3 सूबे हैं, पंजाब, सिंध, खैबर पख्तूनख्वा, वहाँ पे आप वोटर टर्नआउट देखेंगे तो वो अच्छा खासा परसेंटेज वाइज. परसेंटेज देखिएगा तो 60%, 70% अच्छा टर्नआउट होगा वहाँ पे. लेकिन जब आप बलूचिस्तान की तरफ जाएंगे तो वहाँ पे आप देखेंगे कि वोटर टर्नआउट जो है वो बहुत ही कम है. इनफैक्ट अगर मैं मुझे याद पड़ता है सही, तो उसमें बलूचिस्तान में एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट था जहाँ पे सिरे से वोटर टर्नआउट था ही नहीं, किसी ने वोट ही नहीं दिया. शायद हरनाई डिस्ट्रिक्ट था, देख लीजिएगा, चेक कर लीजिएगा. लेकिन वहाँ पे इस तरह से कोई वोट, किसी ने वोट ही नहीं दिया. तो दिस इज मतलब वेरी अनफॉर्चुनेट. व्हाई नॉट के 3 सूबे एक तरफ है जहाँ पे लोग पार्टिसिपेट करें, एक सूबा है जहाँ पे कोई पार्टिसिपेट ही नहीं कर रहा. नाउ दिस इज वन ऑफ द साइड इफेक्ट्स ऑफ पब्लिक पॉलिसी, द सिक्योरिटी पॉलिसी. सिक्योरिटी पॉलिसी भी पब्लिक पॉलिसी ही है जो कि 60 साल से बलूचिस्तान में इम्प्लीमेंट की जा रही है. और वही जो कि मैंने आपको कहा कि वहाँ के लोगों की किसी ने नहीं सुननी. बस यहाँ पे इस्लामाबाद में बैठ के जो है एक पॉलिसी बनाई जाती है और कहा जाता है कि इसको इम्प्लीमेंट कर दो, और बस ये सबसे ठीक पॉलिसी है. लेकिन इसमें बलूचिस्तान के लोगों से, वहाँ के बाशिंदों से किसी ने आज तक नहीं पूछा और कम ही पूछा है, अभी भी नहीं पूछते हैं कि क्यों वो पार्टिसिपेट नहीं करे, क्या वजह क्या है। और अगर कोई सिक्योरिटी की पॉलिसी होनी चाहिए तो उसमें आपके ख्याल में क्या करना चाहिए? नहीं, सिंपली ये है कि यहाँ पे जो बैठा होता है इस्लामाबाद रावलपिंडी में, वो कहता है कि पॉलिसी मैं बनाऊंगा क्योंकि मैं अच्छी तरह समझता हूँ कि यहाँ पे हो क्या रहा है। 65 साल से यही हो रहा है, और ऐसा लगता है कि इसी तरह होता रहेगा। उसका एक साइड इफेक्ट देख लें उस पॉलिसी का, वो ये है कि वहाँ पे पार्टिसिपेशन रेट, किसी को इंटरेस्ट नहीं है कि कौन क्या कर रहा है, हुकूमत क्या कर रही है। एंड इट्स वेरी अनफॉर्चुनेट सिचुएशन। वहाँ पे तो कुछ इलाकों में अब ये हाल है कि जो बॉर्डर लाइन एरियाज है कि वहाँ पे कौमी तराना भी नहीं गाया जा सकता पाकिस्तान का, ना कौमी परचम लहराया जा सकता है, क्योंकि लोग, पीपल आर नाउ सो डिसएन्चेंटेड with the federation and its public policies. So what I'm trying to say, and hopefully what you get over here, is that you have to make people participate. You have to ask people, make them feel that they are equally responsible, or their participation is noteworthy, and they have equal rights, they have their say. That is how things work. लेकिन अब अगर आपने किसी को धक्का दे के एक साइड पर कर दिया और कहा कि मैं ही हूँ कि जिसने पॉलिसी बनानी है और मैं ही सब कुछ जानता हूँ, सो देन नॉट सरप्राइजिंगली what is happening in Balochistan, in many parts of Balochistan, especially the Baloch areas, that is the outcome. What the above statements demonstrate is that implication of specific public policies can either be positive or negative. That is why the effects of citizens' behavior and participation due to various public policies is a topic of interest in public policy studies. Public policy studies में जो पार्टिसिपेशन या कि सिटीजन की, किसी शहरियों की पार्टिसिपेशन किसी भी इस तरह की पब्लिक पॉलिसी में, वो इसलिए मानी रखती है कि जैसा कि मैंने आपको बलूचिस्तान की एग्जांपल दी कि दे फील दे आर वर्थवाइल, उनको ये महसूस होता है कि वो जो कह रहे हैं उसको भी अहमियत दी जाती है। अगर इस तरह नहीं होगा और आप शहरियों को एक तरफ रख देंगे और डिसीजन मेकर्स को एक तरफ रख देंगे, तो वहाँ पे दरमियान में एक खलीज आ जाती है। देयर इज अ बिग गैप इन देयर, एंड द एंड रिजल्ट्स जो होंगे वो फिर इसी तरह होंगे जैसा कि हम बलूचिस्तान में देख रहे हैं। सो व्हाट काइंड ऑफ सिटीजंस डज अ स्पेसिफिक पॉलिसी प्रोड्यूस और वांट टू प्रोड्यूस? चले अब यहाँ तक तो हमने बात कर ली कि पब्लिक पॉलिसी होते हैं उसके शहरियों पे मुख्तलिफ किस्म के असरात होते हैं, कुछ अच्छे होते हैं, कुछ बुरे होते हैं, और शहरियों को जो है उसमें उस प्रोसेस में रखना चाहिए, बेहतर यही होगा। तो अब हमने जब ये बात कर ली तो उसके बाद ये बात करनी है कि पब्लिक पॉलिसी पर शहरियों की जो पार्टिसिपेशन है उस पर किस तरह असरअंदाज होती है, या फिर कोई एक पब्लिक पॉलिसी जब डिज़ाइन की जाती है तो वो क्या चाहती है कि शहरी किस तरह के क्या करें, उनकी पार्टिसिपेशन जो है पब्लिक अफेयर्स में वो किस तरीके से हो। सो लेट्स मूव टुवर्ड सम ऑफ व्हाट दे शुड बी लाइक, और व्हाट देयर पार्टिसिपेशन, what the factors that affect their participation, or what their participation should look like. It's first of all, is an ideal citizen would be the one who contributes positively towards the society through his actions. The ideal citizen knows his rights, respects the rights of others, respects authority, does not resort to violence, and is aware of his responsibilities towards the society and the country. एक ऐसा शहरी पब्लिक पॉलिसी के थ्रू हमने बनाना है जिसको अपने हकूक का पता हो और साथ साथ में औरों के हक का भी रिस्पेक्ट करता हो। he doesn't resort to violence, he knows his rights, he respects the rights of the others, and he knows what to do about public policy, where his voice can be heard, and where to say something, what his rights are. These general kind of responsibilities are expected from citizens of the country, that are expected from the citizens of a country, are now an integral part of the citizens' education in Western nations, who have been facing various problems over the decades. लार्ज स्केल इमिग्रेशन इज अ प्रोमिनेंट वन. अच्छा, ये जो वैसे तो इसकी इम्पोर्टेंस है ही बड़ी, जो शहरियों की पार्टिसिपेशन है इसकी काफ़ी इम्पोर्टेंस है, लेकिन जो इसको ज़्यादा तकवीत मिली, हाउ इट केम टू द फोर मोर स्ट्रांगली, was mainly in Western nations. What happened was that their overall population percentages or the overall population makeup, it began to change. It began to change when a lot of people from over these regions, they went over there. For example, in Britain, there is quite a large Asian community that have come from all over all the nations in Asia. Not just India, Pakistan or Sri Lanka, but from all the nations. There are people there from large African communities, African nations. Then there are people from in Britain from Eastern Europe, like Poland, Czechoslovakia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania. तो देखिए वहाँ पे एक चेंज आया. एक चेंज ये आया बरतानिया में. मैं आपको मिसाल दे रहा हूँ, ये तकरीबन सारे मगरबी ममालिक में हुआ है, फ्रांस में हुआ है, अमेरिका में हुआ है. मिसाल मैं आपको ये दे रहा हूँ कि उनकी जो पॉपुलेशन में एक चेंज आई है. जो वहाँ के नेटिव लोग थे, जो वहाँ के अपने लोग थे, अब आस्ता आस्ता उनकी तादाद जो है ओवर द ईयर्स वो कम होती जा रही है. और जो बाहर से आ रहे हैं इमिग्रेंट्स, जो कि उन ममालिक में आके सेटल हुए, वो लोग, उनकी तादाद आस्ता आस्ता, उनकी परसेंटेज आस्ता आस्ता बढ़ती जा रही है. सो दैट क्रिएटेड अ डिलेमा फॉर देम. व्हाट रिसर्च फाउंड ओवर देयर वाज, एंड व्हाट अलार्म्ड the public policy makers over there, was that they were not participating in the affairs of the country. They were not just not interested in it, and they were not acting as if they are part of that nations. So a lot of the education programs towards citizen participation that the Western countries implemented was aimed at making those people who had come over from other nations, making them realize that they are as much a part of this country as its native citizens are, and they need to feel like that. They need to participate in public policy making decisions, and they need to have their own say. Due to these factors, they have seen voter turnout become lower over time. If I gave you the example of Balochistan, if people don't think a lot about what's going on in the country and they feel disenchanted, they don't feel any loyalty to the country or how the affairs are going on, then one of the outcomes is that voter turnout is pretty low. People don't participate in the electoral process. Moreover, the affiliation to a country, participation in its affairs, and its public policies begin to diminish in the eyes of citizens with these developments. The decreased participation of citizens worried Western nations to the extent that educating citizens about their rights and their obligations is not now a part of their curriculum. So now what began as a movement, what began as a worry about citizen participation is now a part of their curriculum. I remember that when I was in the United States, they had this curriculum about citizenship, about rights, about participation, about feeling like the citizen of United States for immigrants. I'm talking about the education program for immigrants. They had it from a very early time, from let's say what our equivalent would be class 2 or 3 and onwards. So they had it from that time onwards. They used to teach the kids, because kids are the ones who learn pretty fast and are the ones who are most interested in studies rather than the elder ones. So they have it now as part of curriculum. They teach it regularly. It's part of their education system to teach citizenship, to teach participation, especially to those who have come across from other countries. So it gives you an idea. It gives you an idea of how important is it for them that their citizens should take an active part in the affairs of the nation, in running the affairs of the nation. which is quite a contrast to over here. It's completely opposite over here. As I said, nobody cares about citizens, and who gives a damn? They don't care. But this is not restricted to Western nations only. Take Pakistan's example. We read that participation rates are low in one whole province, Balochistan, which is pretty much a reflection of the disinterest in the affairs of the country, as I just mentioned. Why is that? Are they not citizens of the country? What explains their lack of interest and how to bring them in the mainstream? Now, this last one, how to bring them in the mainstream, that's related to public policy. We know that they are disinterested. We know that there is a problem over there. We know a lot of areas over there are not, people are not participating in the electoral process. So any public policy that has to be designed or is intended to be designed in order to alleviate those apprehensions of those people and ask them to be an active part of the policy making process within the country, that has to take all those variables, all those various things into consideration. It has to take history into account. It has to take the present situation into account. It has to take the evolution of institutions and circumstances over time, how they have changed, what has changed, what worked and what didn't work, what will work now and what probably wouldn't. What's the history? Again, make a comparison. We said something about comparative analysis in the previous chapters. We studied that. So you can take out examples from other countries too. There are quite a few where this kind of situation developed, but they tackled it successfully. So take out a comparison, look at the success story, not that just pick out the design from over there and start implementing over here. Look at the success story and try to learn as a public policy maker what is useful in it and what can be done with it within our country. Another aim of participation is about creating a pluralistic society. Creating a pluralistic society is or should be another aim of the public policy. This kind of society is opposite to exclusive society, where rights are enjoyed by only an exclusive group of citizens. अगर आपको याद हो, हमने वो ग्रुप थ्योरीज पढ़ी थी, एलीट थ्योरीज जो पढ़ी थी, तो जो इसमें बात हो रही है एक प्लूरलिस्टिक सोसाइटी, नॉट अ सिंगुलर सोसाइटी लेकिन प्लूरलिस्टिक सोसाइटी जिसमें सबकी पार्टिसिपेशन हो, वो बिल्कुल उस चीज़ के एक ऑपोजिट है, बिल्कुल उस चीज़ के उसके बिल्कुल अगेंस्ट है कि एक मखसूस ग्रुप हो लोगों का, एलीट का हो या कोई भी ग्रुप हो, कि जो पॉलिसी जो है सिर्फ उसके लिए बनाए या खुद अपने लिए बनाए. नहीं, जो एक प्लूरलिस्टिक सोसाइटी अगर आपने बनानी है, एक माशरा, पार्टिसिपेटरी माशरा अगर बनाना है कि उसमें तमाम लोग जो हैं वो मुल्क की तरक्की या मुल्क के अफेयर्स में पार्टिसिपेट करें, तो उसमें वो एक प्लूरलिस्टिक सोसाइटी के जरिए हो सकता है. और ये एक एम होना चाहिए किसी भी पब्लिक पॉलिसी का. Pluralistic society is aimed at making everybody feel equal and responsible in a country's affairs. Moreover, it aims for providing equal opportunities, incentives for being a vibrant and law-abiding citizen, and for taking an active part in a country's affairs. This is hopefully self-explanatory. An example, voting rights. At one time, voting rights were very restricted in democracies like Britain and United States of America. Only an exclusive group of people, white, wealthy, property owners, etc., had the privilege to vote. This is an example of an exclusive society. It's not a pluralistic society. It's not asking people to participate by its actions. But over time, it moved towards inclusion and pluralism by giving everybody above 18 years of old a right to vote, despite which ethnicity they belong to, what their skin color was, and what their orientation were they wealthy or not wealthy. Those things were set aside in order to create a pluralistic society. And remember this, a lot of people don't know that. They think that the history of industrialized nations is all hunky-dory and they didn't have any problems. They had a lot of problems. Some of them just unimaginable, massive problems. In the United States of America and Britain, at one time voting was limited to a few certain group of people, select group of people, and those were elites, the wealthy ones who owned property and those sort of people. So those people who had something with them, some backing, some wealth backing, or who had some influence, only they had the right to vote, and other people were excluded. So you could tell, you could sense that what the participation rates would have been. They were pretty low, but then over time they realized that this is the wrong policy. There is no good in creating an exclusive society, but there is everything good about creating a pluralistic society, to making all the people who are part of a specific nation, to ask them to participate in the process, democratic or otherwise, and that is the way to go. In fact, in United States of America, at one time, even until I believe until 1960, African American people were not, their education, their classrooms were segregated, meant that they couldn't sit with white children, white people's children, and they couldn't travel in the same bus, or couldn't sit with the white people. They had different seats or segregated seats. So that was the level of segregation over there, or that was kind of an exclusive society only meant for white people. But after Martin Luther King Jr. and his civil rights movements, that changed. A lot of it has changed, and now it's a pretty pluralistic society, United States of America. Education programs of the state around the world point to another attempt to create a participating society. इससे ज़्यादा मेरे ख्याल में मौसर तरीका कोई नहीं हो सकता. एटलीस्ट जो तहकीक ने साबित किया है कि तालीम के ज़रिए एक प्लूरलिस्टिक सोसाइटी, और लोगों को आगाही, तालीम और आगाही के ज़रिए, आगाही ये है कि लोगों को ये बताया जाए, जिस तरह का मैंने कहा कि व्हाट देयर राइट इज़, क्या आइन के मुताबिक उनके हकूक़ क्या हैं एज द सिटीजन ऑफ अ कंट्री, इस मुल्क के शहरी होने के नाते उनके क्या हकूक़ हैं. और इस चीज़ में सबसे ज़्यादा मददगार जो है वो एजुकेशन सिस्टम हो सकता है. तालीम का जो निज़ाम है वो सबसे ज़्यादा मददगार साबित हो सकता है. जैसा कि मैंने अभी कहा कि बहुत से मगरबी ममालिक में आजकल ये बहुत ही छोटे लेवल से शुरू होके, मसलन तीसरी, चौथी या पाँचवीं से शुरू होके ये जो लोग पार्टिसिपेशन, प्लूरलिस्टिक सोसाइटी के बारे में पढ़ाया जाता है, या पार्टिसिपेशन के बारे में पढ़ाया जाता है कि किस तरह इस माशरे का हिस्सा बनना है और क्या उनके फ़राइज़ हैं शहरी होने के नाते, एक मुल्क के शहरी होने के नाते. ये सबसे इफेक्टिव टेक्निक है, ये सबसे बेहतरीन टेक्निक कंसिडर की जाती है. Fears that participatory society tends to produce interest group who influence the policy for their benefits, but that is primarily because of absence of laws and regulations concerning the extent of participation. अब इसमें एक डर ये है कि जब लोग, ज़ाहिर है सब एक ही उस पे नहीं होते, एक ही डगर पे नहीं होते, किसी के पास ज़्यादा इख्तियार होता है, किसी के पास कम होता है. मिसाल के तौर पे, तो उनमें से जिसके पास ज़्यादा इख्तियार होता है, कुछ लोगों ने ये इस पे एतराज़ किया कि प्लूरलिस्टिक सोसाइटी तो आप बना रहे हैं, पार्टिसिपेटरी सोसाइटी, लेकिन उसमें जिन लोगों के पास ज़्यादा दौलत है या उनके हाथ में इख्तियार ज़्यादा है, तो उनका वो पॉलिसीज़ पे ज़्यादा असरअंदाज होंगे, वो पूरा एक ग्रुप बन जाएगा, जिस तरह हमने एलीट थ्योरीज में पढ़ा था. लेकिन उसमें ये चीज़ नोटिस करने की है कि वो इस वजह से नहीं है कि प्लूरलिस्टिक सोसाइटी की वजह से नहीं है कि वो ग्रुप इस तरह का बन जाता है. वो इसलिए है क्योंकि कोई ऐसे लॉज और रेगुलेशन नहीं है, कोई ऐसे कवानीन नहीं है जो कि इस तरह का ग्रुप बनने से, इस तरह के ग्रुप को बनने को उसमें रोड ब्लॉक बने. If there are laws and regulations that regulate their behavior and that break up those monopolies, those elite groups, then you wouldn't have a problem with a pluralistic society. Another critique is that it gives the authorities an excuse for a big government, which may not be required. But just like citizens can participate, citizens can also voice their opinion about not having big governments. मैंने अभी आपको मिसाल दी अभी थोड़ी देर पहले कि बजट के परसेंटेजेस देखें, बजट की परसेंटेजेस, बजट के तनासब आप देखेंगे तो उसमें ये पता चलेगा कि ज़्यादातर पैसे जो हैं वो नॉन डेवलपमेंट के लिए जा रहे हैं, जो कि ज़्यादातर वसाइल का ज़िया है। उसमें से बहुत एक कम शायद 25% 20% जो है वो डेवलपमेंट की तरफ जा रहा है या तरक्की और फलाह बहबूद की तरफ जा रहा है। तो ये एक क्रिटिसिज्म एक और है प्लूरलिस्टिक सोसाइटी के आइडियल्स पे, कि अगर प्लूरलिस्टिक सोसाइटी की आप बात करते हैं तो चूंकि जब सारे लोग पार्टिसिपेट करना शुरू होंगे तो सारों की डिमांड्स भी बहुत ज़्यादा होगी और इससे हुकूमत को ये मौका मिल जाएगा कि वो अपने आप को मजीद फैलाए। लेकिन ये भी एक सिर्फ एक ओपिनियन है, लेकिन इस रियलिटी में नॉर्मली ऐसा होता नहीं है। अगर वजह यह है कि अगर तमाम शहरी पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं अपने मुल्क के हर रोज़ के अफेयर्स में, तो उनके पास ये इख्तियार भी होता है कि अगर हुकूमत अपने आप को बहुत फैला रही है तो उसको रोकने के लिए भी अपनी आवाज़ बुलंद कर सकती है। उनके पास ये इख्तियार भी है प्रॉपर फोरम पे। मसलन प्रॉपर फोरम क्या हो गया? कोर्ट हो गया, सुप्रीम कोर्ट हो गया, हाई कोर्ट हो गया, वहाँ पे जा सकते हैं और लोग जा भी रहे हैं। अब पहले से ज़्यादा आगाही है पाकिस्तान में, लोग काफ़ी इस मामले में अब होशियार हो गए हैं। दैट्स द वर्ड्स आई विल यूज़, कि उनको अब पता है कि अगर उनके साथ नाइंसाफ़ी हो या वो परसीव करते हैं कि उनके साथ नाइंसाफ़ी हो रहे हैं, उनके ख्याल में उनके साथ नाइंसाफ़ी हो रही है, तो फिर कहाँ जाना चाहिए। और अक्सर लोग जाना वहीं चाहिए कोर्ट्स, जो कि प्रॉपर फोरम है इस चीज़ के लिए। सो authority giving it gives the authorities an excuse for big government. Maybe yes, it may be an excuse, but it can be prevented by going to the proper forum and voicing your concern as a citizen that I don't want this thing to happen. Features of good policy making. Before we go on to more practicalities of and go on to the qualitative method, the application of methods to the policy making. ये एक मैंने पिकअप किया था नॉर्दर्न आइलैंड में, एक मिनिस्टर है, उनकी एक स्टेट गवर्नमेंट है, उन्होंने एक बहुत ज़बरदस्त डॉक्यूमेंट तैयार की है कि पॉलिसी मेकिंग जो है हाउ टू गो अबाउट इट। उनके जो मिनिस्टर है, फर्स्ट मिनिस्टर, उसने it's about those features. He has outlined certain features that make a policy good. Now he has generalized it, as I said in the beginning lectures, that it covers so much ground, public policy, that it's difficult to tell which area, difficult to restrict it to areas such as economics, one specific area, economics, psychology, or because it covers a lot of ground. I talked about propaganda. Propaganda is part of information services. Now, information services are also covered by public policy. Not many people realize that. Then with Richard Taylor's article, we saw that behavior or psychology, it is also being covered under public policy. It becomes a part of public policy, and it is. So, are there any general rules regarding the making of what makes a policy successful? What would be a good policy? And this document that I picked up and want to share with you, I've jotted down only the summarized points. It's a long document, but I've tried to summarize it, try to bring you the crux of their argument about a good policy. And this document points out a few generalities of what a good public policy would look like. So let's go through it. First of all, define policy making. What's a policy making? The art of applying the vision of a government, democratic or otherwise, into reality for the aim of achieving a specific goal. Like individuals, governments also face uncertainty over its actions. Policy making thus is an attempt to attain a desired change in an uncertain world. This uncertainty of outcomes is what makes policy making and implementation challenging. अच्छा, policy making जो है वो किसी भी हुकूमत का एक विजन होता है कि वो एक पॉलिसी इम्प्लीमेंट करना चाहती है, कि ये एक आर्ट है, ये एक आर्ट है कि पॉलिसी मेकिंग, हमने कोई पॉलिसी बना लिया, अब उसको अप्लाई किस तरह करना है, उसको लागू किस तरह करना है। तो ये जो पॉलिसी मेकिंग है, ये इसी आर्ट का नाम है, ये इसी हुनर का नाम है कि किस तरह एक हुकूमत जो होती है, अगर वो समझती है कि मैंने एक पॉलिसी लागू करनी है लोगों की फलाह बहबूद के लिए, तो उसको किस तरह लागू किया जाए, और किस तरह उसको उसके बारे में समझ बूझ के सोच विचार की जाए। तो ये भी एक आर्ट है, एंड दैट इज पॉलिसी मेकिंग, कि वो हुकूमत का अपना एक विजन होता है कि ये तरीका कार है, इसके मुताबिक हम मेरे ख्याल में हमारे ख्याल में फलाह बहबूद इस तरह बढ़ सकती है। तो वो एक स्पेसिफिक गोल होता है, उनका एक मकसद होता है, उसको अचीव करने के लिए उस पॉलिसी को इम्प्लीमेंट किया, ऐसी पॉलिसी डिज़ाइन की जाती है। ये पॉलिसी मेकिंग है। लाइक इंडिविजुअल गवर्नमेंट्स आल्सो फेस अनसर्टेनिटी ओवर इट्स एक्शन। अनसर्टेन इवेंट्स के बारे में कुछ नहीं कहा जा सकता। सैलाब आ गया, जलजिला आया था 2005 में, वो अनसर्टेन इवेंट था। सैलाब 2010 में आया, पाकिस्तान की तारीख का मेरे ख्याल में सबसे बदतरीन सैलाब था, वो एक अनसर्टेन इवेंट है। तो जिस तरह लोगों के लिए अनसर्टेनिटीज होती हैं, हमें फेस करनी पड़ती है, इसी तरह हुकूमतों को भी अनसर्टेनिटी फेस करनी पड़ती है। मिसाल के तौर पे अभी मैंने आपको ये जलजिले और सैलाब की मिसाल दी, किसी ने भी इस चीज़ को फिक्र नहीं किया था बजट में कि इस तरह का कोई जलजिला आएगा या इस तरह का कोई सैलाब आएगा, उसके लिए कोई अलग रकम मुख्तस नहीं कही गई थी। लेकिन जब जलजिला आया और सैलाब आया तो फिर अच्छे खासे फंड्स जो हैं वो और जगह से लेके उन जगह पे लगाने पड़े। तो ये अनसर्टेनिटी है। इसकी वजह से जो हुकूमत के इंटेंशंस होते हैं या हुकूमत कोई पॉलिसी लागू करना चाहती है वो वहीं पे रह जाती है और फिर इधर अनसर्टेनिटी की तरफ दौड़ना पड़ता है। तो एक चैलेंज ये भी है कि जब पॉलिसी मेकिंग की बात कर रहे हो कि उसमें जो अनसर्टेनिटीज आती हैं, इस तरह के इवेंट्स होते हैं, उसके साथ हमने क्या करना है? क्या उसको हम फिगर इन कर सकते हैं? क्या उसके मुताबिक हम कुछ फंड्स जो हैं वो साइड पे रख सकते हैं कि अगर चलो ऐसा हुआ, सैलाब आ गया, जलजिला आ गया, तो उसके लिए हमने ये फंड्स पहले से मुख्तस किए हुए हैं। ये काफ़ी चैलेंजिंग काम है क्योंकि नोबडी कैन प्रेडिक्ट द फ्यूचर। कल का किसी को कुछ नहीं पता कि क्या होगा। दैट्स अनसर्टेनिटी फॉर यू। तो अगर हमारे लिए ये अनसर्टेनिटी है, ये हुकूमतों के लिए भी अनसर्टेनिटी है। इसी की वजह से जो पॉलिसी मेकिंग होती है ना, वो काफ़ी चैलेंजिंग हो जाती है। इट्स प्रीटी चैलेंजिंग and that's why it's an art to make a policy implemented successfully. Now, the general attributes, the 10 general attributes of a good policy, and that's taken from the document. I've mentioned the document, you can search it up. The Guide to Good Policy Making in Northern Ireland are as follows. I have generalized it, I have summarized it, so let's go through it. First of all, it's forward looking. Any good policy has to look to the future in terms of probable outcomes. This view should be based on statistical trends or good analysis methodology and informed opinion keeping in view the past experiences. It consists of a statement of intended outcomes prepared at an earlier stage, long-term strategy and contingency planning. अच्छा, अब जो कोई भी पब्लिक पॉलिसी है उसमें जो एक जनरल, इस डॉक्यूमेंट के मुताबिक जो एक अच्छी पॉलिसी हो सकती है पॉलिसी मेकिंग, उसके एक फीचर ये है कि इट इज़ फॉरवर्ड लुकिंग। ये फ्यूचर में ये मुस्तकबिल में देख सकते हैं, मुस्तकबिल को मद्देनज़र रखती है कि आज से, ये नहीं कि 1 साल 2 साल 6 महीने बाद क्या होना है, ये लॉन्ग टर्म को भी मद्देनज़र रखती है। ज़्यादातर लॉन्ग टर्म के बारे में ये है कि आज से 4-5 साल बाद अगर इस पॉलिसी को इम्प्लीमेंट किया जाता है तो उसके क्या असरात होंगे। So it takes a long-term view. It's not that it doesn't take a short-term view or just negates the short-term, but a good policy is the one that also takes into effect the outcomes of a specific policy in long term. So any good policy has to look to the future in terms of probable outcomes. Okay, what do you expect in the future to happen? And for that, to gauge what kind of reaction is to be expected in the future, or what kind of outcome is to be expected in the future, forward-looking policies should rely on statistical trends or good analysis methodology. Numbers, statistics and methodology, ये चीज़ें जो है हमें मद्देनज़र रखनी होंगी अगर गुड पॉलिसी, अच्छी पॉलिसी बनानी है। कि क्या हमारे पास नंबर्स क्या है, क्या हमारे पास इस्तेदाद क्या है, क्या कैपेसिटी क्या है, पहले इससे वहाँ पे क्या होता रहा है, इस तरह की अगर कोई पॉलिसी इंप्लीमेंट की गई है उसका नतीजा क्या रहा है, अब उसके बारे में क्या चीज़ मुख्तलिफ है, उस जगह के बारे में या उस ग्रुप के बारे में जहाँ पे हम पॉलिसी इंप्लीमेंट करना चाहते हैं क्या चीज़ है। ये सब चीज़ें जो है, देखिए ये सब चीज़ें मद्देनज़र रखनी होती है। ज़ाहिर है जैसे कि मैंने कहा कि हर चीज़ नहीं, उसमें कोई अनइंटेंडेड आउटकम भी हो सकता है जो कि हमने फिगर ना किया हो, अनसर्टेनिटीज हो सकती हैं, अनसर्टेन इवेंट्स हो सकते हैं, कुछ भी हो सकता है। तो ये चीज़ें सारी जो है जितना हो सकता है उन जितने हम सोच सकते हैं चीज़ों के बारे में, उन सबको मद्देनज़र रखा जाए। एंड ऑल्सो इट कंसिस्ट ऑफ अ स्टेटमेंट ऑफ इंटेंडेड आउटकम्स प्रिपेयर्ड एट एन अर्ली स्टेज। जिस वक्त हम पॉलिसी डिज़ाइन कर रहे होते हैं उसी वक्त सोच लेना चाहिए कि क्या आउटकम्स होंगे, उसको आउटलाइन कर देना चाहिए कि इसमें ये भी हो सकता है और ये भी हो सकता है। कंपीटिंग आउटकम नैरेटिव्स they have to be part of this forward looking policies. Second feature, outward looking. The policy takes an international or global view in terms of seeking experiences from elsewhere relating to that specific policy. Note that learning relevant experiences is meant, not copying. For policy making purposes, what is important is that lessons learned are kept in view and variations from domestic point of view are also looked at. ये उसी पॉइंट के जाता है जो कि मैंने आपको एक ब्लॉग एंट्री पढ़ने को कहा था यूजलेस कंपैरिजंस के नाम से, कि क्या हम अब जब कंपैरिजन कर रहे होते हैं या हमने जब वो कंपैरेटिव एक एनालिसिस डिस्कस किया था कि उसमें हमें क्या चीज़ें मद्देनजर रखनी है, कौन सी चीज़ें हैं जो कि फ़ायदेमंद है और कौन सी चीज़ें फ़ायदेमंद नहीं। उसमें ये चीज़ मैंने आपसे डिस्कस की थी, फ़ायदेमंद नहीं है कि लुक एट द सक्सेस स्टोरीज। अगर वहाँ पे कोई कामयाबी हासिल हुई है पॉलिसी मेकर्स को, तो देखेंगे उनको कामयाबी किस तरह हासिल हुई है। ये नहीं कि वही पॉलिसी जो है उन्होंने जो डिज़ाइन किया उसको उठा के जो है यहीं पे उसी पॉलिसी को प्रोड्यूस कर दें, और ये भी ना देखें कि यहाँ पे हालात जो हैं वो किस तरह मुख्तलिफ हैं और उसी पॉलिसी को इम्प्लीमेंट करने की कोशिश की जाए। नहीं, हर मुल्क में आप देखेंगे कि वेरिएशन होती हैं। देयर इज डाइवर्सिटी, सिचुएशन इन कंट्रीज आर नॉट द सेम, यूड फाइंड डिफरेंट प्रैक्टिसेस अराउंड द वर्ल्ड, different cultures, different way of about going the life, different transaction cost in the society. So applying the same policy that has been applied somewhere else and just taking it up and copying it, pasting it and saying that look, I've come up with a policy and let's apply this over here, that's wrong, because the end result would be disaster and a waste of resources. Look at the success stories, there is no harm in it. Look at the international experience, that is very relevant, but then look at the domestic perspective, look at the domestic factors and see the difference. What is different about policy over here, what can be different about that policy over here that was absent over there, what's different about it. So that's outward looking. Third one, innovative, flexible and creative. These are all related to change and openness. देखें, मैंने आपको पहले भी ये बातें बार बार रिपीट होती जा रही हैं, तकरीबन सेम ही थीम है, कोई ना कोई बात ये ओवरलैपिंग है, कहीं ना कहीं बातें रिपीट हो रही हैं। उसमें ये भी मैंने एक बात कही थी कि देखें अपनी डिस्कशंस के दौरान के सर्कमस्टेंसेस नेवर रिमेन द सेम, हालात एक जैसे नहीं रहते हैं, हालात बदल जाते हैं और बहुत जल्दी भी बदल जाते हैं। सो अ पॉलिसी हैज़ टू बी फ्लेक्सिबल इन दैट इट should be able to change with circumstances, कि उसमें कोई तब्दीली लाई जा सके अगर हालात बदलते हैं। Don't be afraid to find a creative solution to an idea, and the policy should always be open to modification due various developments. Modifications की अभी मैंने बात की, creative idea जो है ये this is very important because we hardly have any in Pakistan. As I had mentioned in one of my previous lectures, in fact the lectures in the start, that I have seen policy making from pretty close. I have worked with the government departments. You wouldn't see any creative solution. No, कोई creative solution आपको नहीं नजर आएगा। वही policies हैं जो पहले से चली आ रही हैं, उसी में कुछ एक दो तब्दीलियां करके और उसी को फिर चलाते जाओ। तरीकाकार वही होगा, वही लोग होंगे, वही डिपार्टमेंट्स होंगे, वही इंस्टीट्यूशन होंगे, लेकिन कोई क्रिएटिव आइडिया नहीं है, कोई एक नया आइडिया नहीं है। जैसे कहते हैं ना कि यार ब्रिंग समथिंग न्यू टू द मार्केट, देयर इज नथिंग ओवर, आई डोंट सी एनीथिंग हैपनिंग ओवर हियर, एटलीस्ट इन टर्म्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, वेरियस गवर्नमेंट, नॉट जस्ट द फेडरल गवर्नमेंट बट द प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट्स एंड द लोकल गवर्नमेंट्स टू। वो ये एक 60 साल 65 साल से जो एक चीज चली आ रही है उसको उसी तरह चलाई जा रहे हैं, उसमें कोई तब्दीली नहीं आ रही। वही फाइलिंग सिस्टम है एक ब्यूरोक्रेसी का, वही फाइलिंग सिस्टम जो अंग्रेज़ों के ज़माने से चला आ रहा है, वही अभी भी चलता आ रहा है, वही फाइलिंग सिस्टम है, वही तरीक़ाकार है, वही पटवारी, वही थाना, वही कल्चर है. There is no creative solution. At least at the government level, there doesn't seem to be. If there are many examples, or there are any examples, I really don't know of them. Perhaps in one of your discussions, if you have come across any, you can let me know. You can enlighten me too. I certainly don't know of any creative solutions to problems over here. A working environment should be created that is vibrant, creative, and which fosters innovation. Moreover, it seeks feasible alternatives to the normal standard operating procedure. जैसा कि अभी मैंने बात की कि एक ही तरीका कार चला आ रहा है, जो कि कोई पब्लिक पॉलिसी होती है ना अच्छी, जिस तरह ये बात कर रहे हैं कि if you intend to apply good public policy, one of its aim should be to create a flexible and creative society, one that is innovative and not afraid to think outside the box. Try incentivizing people with a public policy to make them think outside the box, not just traditionally. That would also be a hallmark of a good public policy. Third, it is evidence-based. Policy making process should be based on the best available evidence, one that is acceptable, neutral, and free of any biases. In the case of lack of evidence or lack of quality evidence, new research for evidence should be given priority. The evidence should then act as a guide to the policy makers. This is closely related to what I have already said in one of the above points, that you need data, you need good numbers for a policy to base your decisions upon that. That would be very viable, that would be very logical. But even if in certain cases the policymaker finds that there is no viable data, or there is no reliable data, then at least what the policymaker can do is sanction a study, sanction a research, look around and see if we can come up with credible numbers upon which to base a policy. That is very important. It is inclusive, meaning that the policy takes into account every person, group involved into account. I'm repeating myself, and the effects upon them. In other words, it takes the stakeholders on board in order to listen to their point of view. This point is ably complemented by the outward-looking perspective that we just studied. Thus, while a policy is being designed from an internal perspective, one can always take into account the international experience. अब ये जो हमने outward looking की बात की, ये उससे closely related point है, being inclusive, के it should include people. I just mentioned that what happens in Pakistan, at least that I know of, since I have seen the policy making process from up close, is that nobody is taken into account for whom the policy is being implemented. Suppose एक गांव में, एक जगह पे एक पॉलिसी इंप्लीमेंट की जा रही है, उसके लिए एक पॉलिसी डिजाइन की जा रही है, वहाँ पे नॉर्मली यहाँ पे ऐसा होगा कि वहाँ पे किसी से नहीं पूछा जाएगा, उधर के कोई रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हो गए, उधर के लोग हो गए, उधर की कोई कमेटी होगी लोगों की, उनमें से किसी से नहीं पूछा जाएगा कि करना क्या है और किस तरीके से करना है. सिर्फ यह है कि बस एक पॉलिसी डिजाइन कर ली कि चलो बस इसको इम्प्लीमेंट करो. इसी वजह से फिर मसाइल पैदा होते हैं कि एक वो बंदा जिसने कभी उस जगह को देखा नहीं होगा या उस जगह की हकीकत को समझता नहीं होगा कि वहाँ पे क्या तरीकाकार है, क्या निज़ाम है, वो उस जगह के लिए एक पॉलिसी बनाएगा और किसी से पूछेगा भी नहीं, उन इलाके के लोगों से या उन लोगों से, उस ग्रुप से, कि एक मैं पॉलिसी डिज़ाइन कर रहा हूँ, आपका क्या ख्याल है इस बारे में, क्या आपके ख्याल में ये ठीक है, नहीं है. नहीं, यहाँ पे इस तरह नहीं होता. बट दे जस्ट डिज़ाइन अ पॉलिसी एंड दे जस्ट फॉरवर्ड फॉर implementation, which is very sad. And the other point about outward looking is that it should be inclusive. It should include all the people who will be, I as a policymaker expect that they will be affected. Include all those people, and then also you can take the international experience into account, that if that kind of policy that a policymaker is proposing has already been implemented somewhere else, then what were its results? What were the lessons learned? it's joined up. The policy should not be just based on technical input. Other aspects that include ethics, equality, legal issues relating to the proposed policies should also be considered. मैंने previous lecture में पिछले लेक्चर में आपको एक मिसाल दी कि नेदरलैंड्स में एक एयरपोर्ट बनाया जा रहा था, उसमें जो है पॉलिसी एक इम्प्लीमेंट की जा रही थी एयरपोर्ट के लिए, लेकिन उसमें उन्होंने they didn't take into consideration the fact that people can go to the court and sue them if they don't like the policy. They never took that into account. So, but it did happen when the government tried to implement that policy without asking those people in that locality. The people went to the court and the policy was stopped. So, joined up का मतलब ये है कि take everything into account, take reactions into account. Technical input, other aspects that include उसमें ethics होगी, equality होगी, legal issues होगी, इन सबको मद्देनजर रखना पड़ता है कि क्या हो सकता है. Remember game theory, उसमें हमने कहा था game theory के बारे में कि जी ये इसमें you tend to, it's based on the reactions of the opposite party or the opposing party, what you expect the reaction to be. So when you are talking about this being policy being joined up, you can consider it in the framework of game theory too. What kind of reactions do you expect from people in terms of legal, in terms of ethical issues? Learned lessons very much connected to the outward looking again. Perspective plus the experience gained by the domestic policies too. Should be able to distinguish between various form of failures and on what level, managerial and financial and otherwise. इसमें जो सबसे important बात है वो ये है कि distinguish between various forms of failures. कहाँ पे अगर इससे पहले कोई पॉलिसी इम्प्लीमेंट की गई थी तो वहाँ उसमें अगर हमें कामयाबी नहीं हासिल हुई तो क्या वजह उसकी? ऑन विच लेवल डिड दैट पॉलिसी फेल? ऑन विच लेवल डिड द पॉलिसी इनकाउंटर अ रोड ब्लॉक? वाज इट द मैनेजरियल लेवल? Was it the financial level, or was it some other thing, or was it administrative or something like that? What is it? So it is covered under learned lessons of good policy making, that look, previously we tried to implement this policy, but these were the problems that were encountered at this level, and we need to take care of it. Communication, the policies communicate the policies clearly to the public in terms of why, for whom, and intended outcomes. Again, this is related to participation of the people, bringing in people, making the policy inclusive. Bring in the people, tell them that what are your suggestions? Take their suggestions and tell them that look, we are trying to implement this policy because we believe this and that, and we are doing it for your welfare. Don't keep them out of the loop. Bring them in. Tell them what we are trying to do. Evaluation, evaluate the policy at different stages and set criteria for evaluation. That means the means of evaluation should be built into the policy from the very outset, and the criteria for success and failure should be well defined. ठीक है, पॉलिसी तो वो कर ली, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन का फेज शुरू हो गया. अब उसके बाद एवेल्युएशन का फेज आ जाता है. कैसी जा रही है पॉलिसी, कैसी उसकी क्या प्रोग्रेस है. Evaluate it. Try to find out where it is lacking, try to find out where it is good, and set some criteria about success and failure, what the criteria is, and try to try to evaluate a policy according to that criteria. Then the last one is review. Timely reviews built into the policy making and implementation. There should be information coming from all stakeholders at every stage of the process, and unsuccessful aspects of the policy may immediately be scrapped. जब रिव्यू हो रहा हो पॉलिसी का और उसमें कोई इस तरह की बात सामने आए कि ये चीज़ जो है ये चीज़ काम नहीं कर रही और ये चीज़ काम कर रही है, तो पॉलिसी पर इतनी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी उसमें होनी चाहिए कि फौरन जो चीज़ काम नहीं कर रही उसको यू सेट इट असाइड, और जो चीज़ काम कर रही है यू पुश इट, उस चीज़ को कंटिन्यू ऑन रखें और कोशिश करें कि उसमें मजीद बेहतरी आ सके. सो व्हाट यू आर ट्राइंग टू डू ओवर हियर इज दैट विद टाइम व्हेन यू आर इम्प्लीमेंटिंग अ पॉलिसी you can weed out the negative aspects or the aspects that are not working and continue on with the aspects that are successful. That would be a hallmark of a good policy, as opined in this document. So that's the end of lecture number 7. in which we went through quite a few points of good policy making, about citizen participation, and what a good policy making would look like, and what are its attributes. Hopefully you enjoyed the lecture. Till next time, Allah Hafiz and goodbye.